Hello and welcome to Not One Right Way, the podcast. It's me, your co-host, Melissa Manuel, she, her.
And it's me, the other co-host, Mar Primero Yaga, they, them, theirs.
Marv, how are you? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I love that the weather is cooling down. I love a little dark and stormy, a little cloudy. The vibes are immaculate right now.
Yeah, it's finally giving fall weather. It's not hot
Yeah.
anymore. It's a blessing.
It's a blessing.
But yeah, how are things? How's LA life treating you?
You know, it's been pretty good so far. I'm not going to get into all the details, and I won't be naming the organization I work for, but higher ed is imploding right now. And yeah.
It's a hard time to be working in academia.
It really, truly is. But I'm fine. I'm working with students who also aren't fine. They're also imploding. But you know what? I love the work I do. It's fine.
Are you watching anything fun?
As you know, Melissa, in October, I choose to watch a horror movie every day. And I'm pretty close to meeting that. Pretty close. I don't think I watched one yesterday. But my favorite so far has definitely been The Substance. It came out last year, I think. No, this year, sometime in the summer. Beautiful. So gory. The body horror tag on it, necessary. There
See,
is horrors coming from the body.
I wouldn't describe something as beautiful and then followed up with so gory, but I'm not into horror like that, so maybe that's normal.
Like, it's just like a really well done film. And then the gore, you know, it adds to the horrifying elements.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you've been having a good time enjoying your spooky movies.
Thank you. What have you been watching?
So much. I can't even keep track anymore. I watch a lot of shows while I work because I work from home now. And so I've been watching a lot of random stuff. So I watched the new show Boots on Netflix about the Pink Marine. And I've watched Survival of the Thickest, which is a sitcom about someone who wants to be a plus-size stylist. I watched the new Fiona and Cake on HBO Max, which is amazing. The spin-off of Adventure Time. I've been watching, I don't know, just anything and everything I can get my hands on. A lot of stuff.
Nice.
It keeps me very inspired watching all the shows.
Nice. I love to hear that. Any standout moments from the shows you've watched?
I did cry when I watched Boots. I didn't expect to cry because it's a show about being a Marine, and I'm not very inspired by like military propaganda. But it wasn't fully. It was just like the stories of these young men really moved me. It's like, oh, you know, you join the military for weird reasons sometimes, and sometimes it's out of the need of the benefits in the work. And you think someone's gonna love you if you join the military, and they cheat on you. Spoilers. Sorry. It was just really heart-wrenching stuff. Yeah. It was good cry.
Okay. Lovely. You told me that I should watch it, and I looked at the first episode. It said Pink Marine, and it's like, Melissa, you recommended this to me because it's gay, didn't you?
Yes,
Hilarious.
I did.
Hilarious.
And it's really good.
I told everyone in the office.
Yeah, it's good. I would recommend.
Okay.
But yeah, speaking of inspiring art, I'm so excited for our guest today because they've worked on so many inspiring pieces of art that our listeners have probably watched. He's an art director, a concept artist, a painter. Welcome, Christophe Vacher.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We're so happy to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How are you doing? What have you been watching?
Oh, all kinds of things. I missed the last movie of Mission Impossible. So I rewatched the first one yesterday, and
Nice.
I am going to watch the last one today. So yeah, so that's my big plan for the day.
Yeah.
Good plan.
Yeah. What What is Ethan up to? Like, I feel like I remember Mission Impossible, like, a lot of it had to do with, like, a girlfriend or a fiancé, and, like, he pretends he dies at some point.
Well, there's like several women involved. So like, he finds a new one, the last one dies, and so it's like it's very sad, but at the same time it's like it creates a new opportunity for excitement and mission and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
It's actually, I was watching it for the third time yesterday and I was
Mhm.
like, this is really well made. It's like really good action, well made with good story. It's like, of course, you realize when you watch it, well, there's lots of cracks, but the the really crafty part is that you don't really notice the cracks because everything is like so well packed that it
Mm,
just moves forward, and you're just expecting like more and more to come, and you're just like at the edge of your seat, and it's like really, really well done.
That's
As much
awesome.
as Tom Cruise has been kind of a controversial character,
yeah.
um, I have to say, like his movies, I enjoy his movies.
That's the best sell for the Mission Impossible movies I've ever heard because
Yeah.
I've never seen them, but you make
Oh,
me wanna
okay,
watch it.
okay.
Okay, we'll do, like, what is it, 7 movies now? We'll do
A marathon? A marathon. Okay, okay, okay. Alright. Put it in the calendar somewhere between work and wedding and podcasting. We'll make it work.
yeah, maybe March?
Yeah.
Maybe we can fit it in March? Yes,
Well, Marv, why don't you start us off with your hard-hitting question?
absolutely. So, Christophe, you got a bit of a background on this. I'm a social worker. As I was saying earlier, I'm working with people whose lives are kind of imploding, and I'm coming in trying to, like, pull things together, make things work, make tomorrow possible. So I'm often asking people really tough questions about their life. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to hit you with a hard hitting question.
Okay.
Okay. What is your favorite fall activity?
Oh, fall activity. Well, I normally it used to be just going out and like look at the colors of the trees in the fall because that to me that is just a go-to. The problem is we're in California.
Yeah.
So
Kinda
it's a
hard.
good thing, it's a good thing in some seasons, but it's not a good thing in other seasons. I actually really do miss the four seasons. And one of the things about the four season is the colors in the fall, and we just don't have that here. I mean, you have like a couple of trees that really try their best to satisfy you with colors, but you're like, no, sorry, buddy, you're far from the count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it's just when I go back to France in the fall, I really, really do miss that. It's just like all the red and orange trees and like there's an ocean of leaves on the ground. And I had forgotten about that. Last time I went back in the fall, I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's like you're just swimming in leaves on the ground, and all this is going to get the ground richer and get like more sediments and all that good stuff for nature. And you just realize, you just love the four seasons. But
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
California is kind of an average, it's like you want to be here in the winter time, but at the same time it's like, yeah, but you get kind of an average kind of weather throughout the year, and it gets like really hot in the summertime. It's mostly dry, but it's not something that eventually on the long run you realize, you just don't know what you prefer. It's like maybe I would prefer winter. I went back to France in the winter time like a couple of times to see how I would feel, but like, going back in the winter time, and I was actually totally okay with it. I was like, oh, it's like winters are not that harsh there. I mean, depending on where you are, of course, but yeah, and that transition period, like, fall and spring, it's just,
It's really nice.
I do miss that here. I do miss the green summers. very green summers. I mean, that's something that I really, really miss.
Yeah, lovely. In Colorado, a lot of people would use the term leaf peeping to describe going out to the mountains and looking at the leaves changing colors. Would
Okay.
you use that term?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I can see how in Colorado they would have also that special moment in the fall.
It was really beautiful because Marv and I both went to school in Colorado, so we got to see
Oh,
the
okay.
changing of the colors too, and it
Yeah.
was very magical.
Which city?
Colorado Springs,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
just
I
close to
went there.
Denver.
Yeah.
I went there
Mhm.
actually. I have friends in Fort Collins, so
Yeah,
I've been there many times. Yeah.
it's nice. I went to Telluride once, and
Okay.
when it was, like, peak, like, leaves were changing colors, and it's really, really beautiful. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I do miss that too sometimes of, like,
Yeah.
it's time for all the leaves to turn golden and s
Yeah.
crunch them under my feet.
Although I have to say the winters in Colorado are y enjoyable for 2 days.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
fall is nice.
And
Yeah.
then sometimes your jeans are wet up to your knees and it's just like, I gotta go. I gotta go.
Mhm.
I
That's
can't do
understandable,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. Lovely fall reminiscing. Gonna move us to the next section to
Okay.
talk more about you. I'd love to get to know more about you. Usually we start at the very beginning about whether or not you knew art was your passion. Did young Christophe always want to be a painter, or did you have a different career goal in mind?
Well, I knew I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't start as wanting to be a painter. I started with comic books. So I was going to be a comic book artist.
Oh,
And I really was working towards it. I actually was drawing before I knew how to write. Like my mom was like trying to teach me how to write, and I was just like drawing, and I was not interested in learning how to read or write. But so yes, very early I knew that I wanted to be an artist, and comic books were like the natural thing to be attracted to. There was like my first love of comic books came through a Tintin. You know Tintin?
Yeah.
yeah,
So okay, so this was huge in France. Since the 40s. All the books were like super popular, and they still are. And so I was, I had read most of them, and so that was my go-to first. So I was learning how to draw from Tintin and a couple of other comic books, and then I evolved, and I was going to be a full-time. I was semi-professional comic book artist, and I was going to be full-time. There was a comic book artist in France called Casa. I don't know if you've heard of Heavy Metal Magazine. Heavy Metal Magazine in the US, it's not very popular anymore, but it still exists, from what I understand. But it was born in France, and Metal Magazine was all about like comic books, but like hardcore comic books, like, pretty
nice.
violent, sexy, gore, anything you can think of. It was not horror, but it was like, like the title says, heavy metal. It was just
Yeah,
crazy,
yeah.
just like lots of, sci-fi crazy stuff. And one of the core team who created that magazine, the three main artists were like Mobius. I don't know if you've heard of Mobius. Mobius was
I think so.
Mobius is like I would say the grandfather of concept art. He was like the main figure of concept art for many years. He worked on all the big movies like the original Alien. There was a project of Dune.
Wow.
Dune was like originally like he worked on that. Tron, like the original Tron, he worked on that. So he was like a main figure. And so he was one of the creators of Heavy Metal Magazine with Casa and Drie. So there were like three main comic book artists. And Casa, eventually, I met him several times in comic book festivals. And one day he offered me to do a series with him. And so I was like, wow, this is awesome. So he asked me, what do you want to draw? What kind of series are you interested in? I'm like, well, like a heroic fantasy. That was my main thing at the time. I was like maybe like 16 or 17, something like that.
That's
And
so young.
and so he he offered me that, and he wrote a synopsis for me. So it was a female hero with like, pretty violent and like same as, like a kind of a female version of Conan the Barbarian.
Okay.
So it's
Cool,
like,
cool, cool.
so it was pretty hardcore. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then something came along. I had the opportunity to enter animation, and I was like,
Mm.
oh crap, what do I do now? And so I pursued animation. I was like, okay, maybe I can do both. And so I kept the synopsis, in a drawer somewhere for a while. And then I moved to Paris and I entered several animation studios, and eventually I landed at Disney. And with Disney came the opportunity to move to the US. And I had always wanted that. And so I was like, okay, this is not working for the comic book thing. And so I sent it back to him and I said, I'm really, really sorry. I just can't do it. It's just too much. I can't have, full-time 2 careers in parallel at the same time. And I just can't do it. So I know he was disappointed, but he eventually did the series with another comic book artist, a young guy, and the series was made, and it's called Amiant, and it's like, they have like three volumes, I think. But yeah, so it wasn't for me, and I eventually left the comic book career, and I got also interested as I was going into animation. I got interested in background painting, and that's what really got me into painting. And I started to pursue that at the same time. So like painting for art galleries and doing animation at the same time. So that never really left me. So I did actually pursue 2 careers side by side, but the painting one is kind of a little more flexible. So, it allowed me to pursue it like along the lines of what I was doing as a main activity.
That's
So
an incredible story.
like, it's it's just like one of the stories that I I actually pursued throughout my life. But yeah, so I landed in the US eventually. It was I got incredibly lucky because when I entered the Disney studio in Paris, when they had a studio there, it was this window of opportunity that happened out of nowhere, and that will never happen again because the studio was created at that moment and eventually died after, a few years after I had left. So that opportunity wouldn't be there now. And so, yeah, I entered the Disney studio, and because Lion King was happening at that time, it opened up a huge amount of opportunities for all animation artists. So basically, everybody was leaving the French studio. So, but they were leaving. They were like, okay, I'm going to DreamWorks, I'm going to Warner, I'm going to all these other opportunities. And instead of doing that, I sat down with them and I said, look, I have offers now from other studios, and what do you want to do? So they said, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I mean, so I renegotiated, salary and all that. But then I said, I'd like to go to the US. And then I moved to Burbank and just stayed with Disney for like many more years, and eventually left and went back and left again. It's like
Yeah.
these these days, it's actually there's no guarantee anymore that you're going to stay in a place for a very long time. It used to be like they're trying to keep their artists, but not anymore because the field has been flooded with like new talent, and so overall studios, they don't care too much about keeping their artists.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk more about how it's been working at all these different studios because you've worked at DreamWorks, Universal, Paramount, Disney. You've worked at all these studios. What's it been like going between all these big studios and working on big projects?
Well, actually, it's very different to work on big projects with big studios than it is with like smaller studios. In smaller studios, you tend to have maybe more interesting projects, a little more crazy, a little more, you know, independent, like indie projects that where you can do more for the project. You split roles and you just do more different things on the same project. Whereas in big studios, they hire you for a specialty, and then you stay in that specialty unless you really push it to try something else, while you're there. But I had the opportunity to do different things, even in big studios. It was mostly, well, when I started in France, I was a character designer first, for secondary characters. And then I went into layout design, which is like, the environment design. And then I became a background painter because I was really interested in painting. And so that was my activity for the longest time. And eventually down the road from that, I got into visual development, and then from that into art direction. So it became like a kind of an opportunity for me to try out different things. And when I left Disney the first time in 2002, I went for, well, first I wanted to paint full time for galleries, art galleries. So that I liked it, but and I could have stayed in there because it was really starting to pick up. But there are factors that you don't really account for. And one of them was, you're on your own at home all day. You, it's like
Yes.
you have to push it, push it, push it, and no one is going to push it for you. So you have to just and so first of all, you have to really make an effort to go outside to see people, because you can stay all day long in your studio on your own and getting depressed because you're not seeing anybody, you're not interacting with anyone. You really have to cultivate like a friend culture, because if you don't, no one is going to do it for you. So I had a very I had a regimen like for my everyday life. So I go to the gym on a regular basis. So that would allow me at least to, see people, talk to people. And then, you have to just like keep feeding your production, your art production. So that too is something that you really have to believe in what you're doing, because it's great to be with a gallery, but it's just the first step. It doesn't mean you're going to sell paintings. It doesn't mean the public is going to be interested in you. You learn a whole bunch of things along the way about the art world and how it works in art galleries. And it's just very, very unstable. So you realize that too. But it was working pretty well. It was just a matter for me of like, suddenly I was disconnected from all the other artists. It's like in a studio, you don't realize how lucky you are to actually interact with other artists and to exchange technique, and uh, your art world is interacting with other people's art world. And that's very enriching. And so eventually, you're like, well, it's great to be doing whatever you want, but at the same time, well, first of all, you have to sell on a regular basis. That's not easy to do. And second, you just want to be inspired by other people. You just realize how interconnected we all are. And if you stop being interconnected, you die. It's like mentally, you're like, you have to really make an effort to just like push yourself and be creative also. And you realize you're really creating your life. You really are creating your life. It's like, this is, and when you're on your own, you're more than ever conscious about that, because you're like, nothing can happen in your life until you push it, and including making friends. It's like, I hear a lot of people who are saying that they're lonely and all that. And I'm like, make the effort. Make the effort. You have even like online. It's like you have all this opportunity today to actually connect with the world online and eventually meet people in person or not. And today, when I hear that the young generation is very lonely, I'm like, how do you do that? You have the world at the tip of your fingers. How do you get lonely? Like, to me, it's so easy today to make friends. You have all these things like Meetup and like, I'm part of like Internations, and where you can actually, you start meeting groups of people who do the same thing as you do, who share the same ideas, the same creativity. And you're like, you have to start thinking that you can do what you want to do. There are so many opportunities today that were not there, in the 90s, the 80s and 90s. And I'm like, I just want to tell people, like, this is available to you. You have to touch it. You have to engage.
Hmm.
So yeah, the world has changed for sure.
Definitely.
Would you say that you've seen this affecting art by young people as well? You talked about earlier the connection between different people's art worlds and how they can interact when you're able to have that communication and
Yeah, I
connection with
mean,
others.
yeah, absolutely. You are influenced by, you know, one another. Like, and you can actually see that it's nothing new. Even before internet, the other artists, like in music, in painting, and anything, you could see. Well, that's how movements are born. Like painting movements or music movements, because you influence each other. You're like, oh, what this guy's doing is great. Maybe I can do something similar, but like with my own taste of it. And then you start doing things that are like kind of similar, and then you start like, banding together with these people, and before you know it, it's not just one person, it's a whole bunch. And it's always been that way. Follow your intuition. But the world is definitely more open, and you're interacting with other people who can actually, not just affect your life in a negative way, but affect your life in a positive way. And
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah, it's important to just stay connected.
That's one of the reasons we started this podcast, was to help people feel more connected and use it in a positive way of
Mhm.
like, here's a positive way to feel connected to people in the industry and learn, versus like just a negative space of,
Yeah,
I don't know, doom scrolling, etc.
that to me is the amazing thing of the current world, is that instead of all the freaking negativity, just look at all the positivity we can actually access. Right.
What does it mean to be an art director? Because I've met some, I've worked with them, but in your case, what have you done as an art director? What does your day to day look like? Do you manage artists? Do you give notes? Like, what has it meant for you to be an art director?
So I think we need to mention first that an art director, the title is going to mean different things on different shows. So I worked on both feature films and TV series. And when so I had started with TV series way back, in the late 80s. And then I moved into feature in the 90s. And then at some point I had the opportunity to go back to a TV series that was Transformers. And, for the first time, they were using new technologies. And so I was like interested in seeing what we could do with that. And I realized, so in feature film, we have usually like a production designer or like a supervising designer and an art director. So usually there's one guy for design and there's one guy for color and lighting. So basically one does all the design and he works with like the layout supervisor who does all the camera movements and all that stuff. And then the art director handles like color keys and color scripting. It's like painting basically. Color keys are like bigger paintings. Color scripting is like a mini comic book of paintings, just to give to the CG team to light and compositing the whole movie. But when you go to TV series in general, they have one guy who's called an art director and who supervises everything. And most of the time, the guy is like well versed in one aspect or the other, but not like in everything. It can happen that the guy is well versed in everything, but more often than not, like the guy will be, let's say, good at character design, and then he won't know much about color or camera motion and lighting, which can be a problem too. But basically, that's the big difference. And more with the video game industry, where you have usually like one guy doing everything also, that kind of has changed. So now you can find like almost any version of it, like wherever you go. So I did both. My longest specialty as an art director was the color and lighting thing, but I did also a lot of design. I was production designer on a feature too, and on the Jurassic World series, Camp Cretaceous. I was also doing everything. I was supervising everything at first, and then it was so much work because it was like almost feature film quality. So it was so much work in such a short amount of time that we had to have a second guy as a second art director. He was supervising designer first, and then he became second art director. So, depending on the project, the studio, it can be different. And sometimes you have one production, like in live action, the production designer is usually supervising everything. The art director, and the director of photography, can be like right below the director. So these things have kind of started to penetrate the animation industry as well. So there are studios now with the DP, director of photography, and who have a production designer who can either be fully supervised. So yeah, so it depends on which show you go to, but like I've done both, and like now for the next shows, it really depends on what the studio wants me to do. And of course, that entails supervising a whole team of people. Depending on the job you have, like as an art director doing just color and lighting, usually I have like, I'm either on my own or I have like 2 or 3 people with me helping, just painters. But if it's the full thing, if I'm a production designer or a full art director, then I'll have like about 10 to 12 people to supervise.
Yeah.
And then you have to be kind of the buffer between management and your people. So you have to both check on the deadlines, but at the same time, make sure, check on the deadlines for management, make sure that, things are on track and that everything is going the right way, but also check on your people, make sure that they're okay, they're not burning out, which happens a lot in, on TV series when the schedule is really tight. And so there's a lot to deal with, like between management and the artist and all that, and make sure that you hear when people are tired and when they're just, because people don't really talk unless you actually talk to them. So
True. Very true.
especially artists. and
I'm
you
familiar.
and you have to deal with personalities. Yes. Oh my gosh. That's
Yes.
fun talk.
Oh, yes. That was a really good explanation. I hadn't heard of it described that way because I've worked with art directors in games, and the animation studio I was very small, so it was like everyone was just wearing a lot of hats, but
Yeah.
breaking it down that way was, like, really nice to hear of how it works in a feature film or on a more
Yeah, it's
organized
it's
show.
actually fun to be wearing several hats, but it can be stressful too.
I've
So
heard it more described as stressful than fun. I've never heard
depends.
it
I think it
never
depends
heard it fun.
the stage you're at on the production. Let's just say it starts with fun and it ends with the the stressful and crying.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Definitely very stressful towards the end. But that's cool. I'm curious about, as someone who's, like you mentioned, worked in gallery, painting, and animation, Do you have a comparison or a preference between either two? Like, what do you love about the medium of animation? And what do you love about the medium of like painting on a canvas?
Well, actually, it's such different worlds. It's like, well, mentioned before, the difference between painting alone at home and then interacting with our artists. So on one hand, you're like, it's great to be complete master of your schedule at home. So you do whatever you want. You also have to have some kind of willpower, because if you don't, nothing gets done. But you do anything you do on your own schedule. You have no one to tell you what to do and when. And that's the great part of it. And eventually, when you have a full show in a gallery, you you're the only one who created it, and then the gallery becomes your partner in, like, basically being able to sell on all levels, physically, and just tell people about you. So that's the enjoying part, I would say. And at the studio, I would say there's something that we don't talk about too much, that needs to be said about, like, the fact that you're part of it, of something that is bigger than you, and that is like where your ego has to be, put in check, because it's not about you, it's about a whole project with people who basically more or less have a similar life to yours, but decided to come to work on something bigger than themselves, and eventually produce something that, when you finally see that thing on a big screen, it's a unique kind of feeling, because you feel you achieve something bigger than yourself with a whole team of people. You're enjoying the fruit of your labor all together, and it's really cool to be in that situation every time. It's like rap parties are usually like a lot of fun, because you're just enjoying the fruit of so much labor, like, usually like 2 or 3 years of, like, just pushing along and pushing along, and like dealing with all the different problems, which can sometimes be heavy to bear, but finding solutions, and just like, and I'm not always easy to work with. It's like, and people are not always easy to work with either. You have to find solutions. You have to, push against the desire of, like, letting your emotions, get to you. And that's not always easy as a supervisor. You have to really try to keep a cool head. And, when I was on Camp Cretaceous, there were some days I would just need to go to the bathroom, look at myself in the mirror, and just, like, put a lot of cold water on my face in order not to explode.
Wow,
Because it
I've
was
been there.
so, yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. It's like you have all the weight of the production on your shoulders, and it's like, I mean, not all of it, because of course you share that with
The
other,
team, yeah.
it's a team, but when you have your own team to supervise, and then you have, like, that your team is not the only team. There are all these other teams, and you have to make all this work together, and try
Yes.
to get along with everybody. And there are people who will get on your nerves, and you will get on the nerves of other people. It's like you have to just make sure that you step back and you look at it, like, from a more neutral perspective, in order not to get too engaged into, emotional
And I
situation.
also, when I get like that, I have to like splash the water on my face and be like, "Remember, you're making cartoons for babies. It's gonna be
Yeah,
okay." Like, it's
yeah,
not that serious.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah,
it's gonna be fine.
yeah.
This is not life or death. So
Yeah. I'd also like to make a statement. We've, and this may surprise you, had 3 people on this podcast that have worked on Camp Cretaceous. Crustaceous?
yeah,
Cretaceous.
Cretaceous.
I had 3 other people who've worked on that show, so,
Oh, okay. Who were
um,
they, if I may ask?
it
I'm
was Mabeline. She was a production manager.
I know the name. I totally know her name.
Yeah. Who else was it, Marv? Because 'Cause I'm trying to remember.
Ellie Guzman and
Eileen
Miguel
Swan.
Balthazar.
I know their names. I can't remember their faces. I know their names for sure.
They've all been on the podcast, so
Yeah.
Oh, great. Awesome.
small world.
Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Ellie was a writer. Miguel was he storyboard artist or just a concept artist?
Do not remember.
Mhm.
He
I
drew a
think
pretty picture.
Miguel mostly has done storyboarding.
Yeah, storyboard artist. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it totally rings
someone from
a bell.
everywhere.
Yeah. His name rings a bell for sure.
Yeah. It's a good group of people worked on that show.
Yeah.
Something that we've asked all of them is, do you have a favorite dinosaur?
Yeah.
Well, T-Rex, obviously.
T-Rex.
To me,
Okay,
it's
It's a
like
okay.
good
hands
answer.
hands down T-Rex. He's both a good guy and a bad guy. You know, when you
Yeah.
think of it, it's like he's just ferocious nature doing what it does. Whether you consider it bad, it's going to be bad in some situations, it's going to be good in others. So, uh, yeah,
The duality of man, truly.
yeah, yeah.
If you've seen Kennedy's show Primal, have you seen that show?
Oh, Primal, yeah, 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 yeah.
That's a very good example of what it means to be a T-Rex, you know?
Mm,
The duality of man.
exactly.
Also very gory.
Yeah, no
Okay,
kidding,
noted.
kidding. Yeah.
That show's good. We don't have a lot of time left, and you've worked on so many shows, so I kinda wanna, like, rapid fire. Is that okay? Like, do a
Okay.
quick fire?
Okay, I'm not
I'm
very
gonna
good at
n
quick fire, but go ahead.
I'm gonna name a project that you've worked on, and then kinda just let us know what was one thing you loved about it.
Okay.
Um, a goofy movie.
Oh, my first feature. My first feature and at Disney. So it's like, yeah, no, I loved working on it. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot that I didn't know. It was, first feature experience. So
Were
yeah.
you a background painter on this one?
I was actually first a background painter and then I became head of backgrounds because of different things that happened on the show. But yeah.
Movie. That makes very sense.
Many people do. It's like it has a great story. It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
The dinosaur, Disney a different dinosaur project, but Disney's dinosaur.
Yeah, that was my first CG feature, and I really wanted to work on that movie. So that was my first movie, and I arrived in the US. And
Ah,
they basically, when I moved from France to here, one of the things that I asked, along moving to the US was to work on dinosaur. And so they actually granted my wish, and it was
fun.
awesome. It was really great to work on that because it was a mix of live action and CG. It had never really been done this way, and yeah, it was just great.
I don't know a lot of people who have seen it, but I had it on VHS as a kid, and I would watch it a lot.
Yeah,
I
many
thought it was
people,
really cool.
many people
Um,
watched it like when they were kids, like in a loop.
yeah, that was me. I just, like, rewind my VHS and be like, "Time to watch the dinosaurs die." At the end. I love this one. Another one I would watch a lot, Fantasia 2000.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
You worked on the Firebird suite.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I worked on that one and none of the others because that's really the one I was interested in, and it's very. I find it the most unique of all the pieces. Well, actually, each piece has its own uniqueness, but this segment was definitely in line with all the stuff that I loved. So that very gothic aspect and like
Yes.
the darkness of it, but at the same time very uplifting and very classical. The music, I still remember we played that music all the time because it was like it was on the show and we were getting inspired by the music. So I love the elegance and classical aspect of the piece, and then the whole darkness of it, dark and light, because I love playing with that, dark and light. There's no light without darkness, and so it
Mhm.
gives us as creators and artists a chance to actually play with with both much more than, a more sugar-coated kind of animation,
Yes.
which I don't mind working on either, but I find the dramatic aspect of animation to be more interesting as an artist to work on, especially as a painter and you know, uh, someone who plays with light. So yeah,
It's
Fantasia 2000, like the Firebird Suite was definitely.
It's beautiful because, like, a lot of your pieces are, like, landscapes and play with
Mhm.
naturalistic
Yeah,
aesthetics, and, like, it's the perfect piece for your
yeah,
art, so it's
yeah,
so cool that you got to work on that, and
yeah,
Fantasia for me is, like, along with Bambi, were, like, one of the first things that made me, like,
of
love
course.
animation,
Yeah,
like, as a kid because I was just so
yeah.
amazed that that was hand-drawn stuff. I don't know,
And I actually
enchanted.
for us, it was like you've seen the classic Fantasia, the first one, your whole life as a kid. It was like you just said, it's the kind of stuff that you would be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's like these are classics. And then suddenly you find yourself in a position to work as the extension of this classic. The same happened to me with Beauty and the Beast.
Mm,
Um, Beauty and the Beast, the movie 92 was released, and then they re-released it. And for the re-release, they created a new sequence.
mm,
And I was asked to work on that sequence, and I was like, "Wow!" So now you go on
later
IMDb,
on.
and my name is on Beauty and the Beast, and I'm like, I didn't choose that, but I was completely fascinated with the actual movie, and now my name is on it because the added sequence, and I'm like, this is just like crazy. It's just so surreal that
Yeah,
you grew up with something that was like on the other side of the world, and then suddenly you find yourself working on these things.
mm.
It's just incredible.
Do you wanna try and keep going faster? There's more.
Yeah.
Tarzan?
Oh, Tarzan, yeah. I mean, yeah, I loved. Was the first feature that really employed to the fullest. So it was half and half CG and hand painted and hand drawn.
Mhm.
So it was like the last movie at Disney that was not fully digital. So it was mostly painting, and it was a background painter on it. So it was mostly, paint, acrylic paint on board. Last time I did it.
Well,
Hmm.
uh, Treasure Planet.
Well, first, so the next, obviously the next following Tarzan, first entirely digital animated movie for Disney. And the funny thing is that I when I learned that it was going to be fully digital, I hated it. I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I wanted to be on it, but when I learned it was going to be fully digital, I hated it. And the art director, who was a friend of mine, asked me one day, he texted me in his office and he's like, "Christophe, how do you feel about the fact that this movie is going to be entirely digital?" And I'm like, "Well, I'll be frank with you. I don't like it. And I think it might be, I mean, I'm going to work on it because I love the subject, sci-fi, and very special, but it might be one of the reasons why I will leave animation." And I was so
Um,
wrong. I was just so wrong. I was so wrong. I fully embraced digital, and I not only that, but I embraced 3D, and I could eventually. The more you do it, the more you realize, oh my gosh, there are tools that I had no idea could do that, and with so much control on your parameters and all your creative tools, it's like I started to enjoy it, and like the 3D on top of that, I was like, wow, this is like sculpting in inside a computer. It was just the more you do it, the more you learn, and you're getting good at it. The more you're like, it's actually really enjoyable on another level.
mm,
I still love to paint on canvas, but painting and doing 3D in the computer is also very enjoyable in a different way. So I was wrong on that.
famous last words.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask about Shark Tale? DreamWorks Shark Tale?
Yeah, Shark Tale was like I just helped finishing the movie. I kind of really liked working on it when I was on it because I really we would see the movie by sequences, like as we were going and finishing up stuff. And I had a really good feeling when I was watching, sequence by sequence, and then I saw it in the theaters, and seeing the whole thing, somehow it kind of I felt like it kind of like squashed some of the feelings I had looking at each sequence individually. Somehow it didn't impact me, as much as I wish it had. So it was an okay movie, but it was great working on it. I got to do several types of things. That I think it was my second movie in visual development after Treasure Planet. Treasure Planet was both viz dev and background painting, and on Shark Tale I was visual development only.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Only a few more. I want to ask about Transformers.
Yeah.
We talked about a
Well,
little bit.
so I said a little bit about it already. It's like I really was interested. I grew up with like that stuff, and I was very interested to see what we could do with like different budget than feature, but with new technologies. How far we could go. I learned a lot, being on it about the possibilities and the limits of CG animation. And also, we were not directly, I mean, the CG studio was not here, it was in Japan.
Mm.
And so I couldn't really see what they were doing there. So it was kind of, limited that way. And also the first series, I mean, the Transformers Prime, because we started with this series, I really loved the approach. Like the director Dave Hartman really understood the material, and I got along really well with him. He was a fun guy, very smart, and the way he was approaching it was he was trying to approach it in a more of a feature film kind of way. Although he was, the time and budget were kind of limited, but like, well, limited to a point. They still had a very good budget for it, but it's like working with a studio, overseas was not always easy, and I mean, overall, I'd say we did something. We pushed things more than a lot of TV series hadn't so far. So, but I loved the more gothic and dark aspect of it. And because it was zombie robots, we could do a lot of very gory stuff that were not gory because they were robots. So it was like, wow,
Right.
we could do pretty far with like dubbing out.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So, alien zombie mech?
yeah,
Wow,
like,
the layers.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a very beloved show, I think, like, has a
Yeah.
cult following that people really loved it.
Yeah. And then the following series was like completely the opposite. It was like more like for kids, and it was much more tame, and it was actually 2D looking. It was a 3D skeleton, but the look of it, the rendering of it was 2D. And it was pretty cool to work on too, very stylized, and a comic book look that I had never seen before.
Okay, last one I wanted to ask about was Iwaju, the most recent show
Oh,
on that
yeah,
one I
Iwaju.
loved.
It's like it's too bad that it kind of like there's very few people who have seen Iwaju. I'm like, when I saw the project and it was pitched to me, I was like, this is going to be amazing because you know near futuristic Lagos,
Mhm.
um, and also addressing social issues like the social barriers, the and on top of that, a very heavy subject matter, child abduction and child
Yeah.
trafficking. I mean, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And they did it in
It's
such
a fun show too.
yeah,
It's really
yeah.
good.
And they did it in such a tactful way. I was like, good for you, Disney. It's like this is the kind of stuff that I'd like to see more.
It was
Um,
also produced by a studio in Nigeria, Kugali
mhm,
Media is like,
yeah.
"Hell yeah, this is awesome."
Yeah,
So
it was like we were connecting with like a studio in London that was like, African culture, pure African culture, but who was also into sci-fi and stuff. So, and they themselves were working with people in Africa. And then the production studio was Montreal. and it was run overall by Disney Feature here in Burbank. And so I was like, wow, this is really awesome. They've never done that before. And it's just on so many layers that were like all good. And I was like, this show is going to be a major success. And it didn't. It wasn't. I was like, what happened? I know the story was kind of like at some point a little, when I read I watched actually the last version of the story was not as satisfying, I would say, as a viewer. But there were so many other layers that to me really hit the mark, that I was like, I don't understand why this thing didn't have more success than that. Because it's like Treasure Planet, so many people, when I posted recently on TikTok and Instagram about Treasure Planet, and that got so much reaction, everybody was telling me, why is it that this movie didn't get the success that it deserved? It became kind of a cult classic, but Disney didn't push it as much as they should have at that time. And it just felt that way, and unfortunately didn't get the recognition that it deserved. So a little bit the same with Iwaju, but yeah, but I loved working on it. It was great working on it, because it was just so much quality and good people to work with. That's very important on a show.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Okay, my rapid fire is done. We're at time. Just want to know, do you have any final words of advice for aspiring artists?
I would say, well, we were talking about interacting, connecting with other people. I think that's the first thing to do, and interact and connect in a sincere way, not just because you're looking for stuff, from people. Connecting to other artists, because it's inspiring. It's like, you see what other people are doing. You usually compare it to what you're doing. So it inspires you. It makes you sometimes change the way you're doing stuff, or it actually inspires other people to do things differently. But I would say that's the first thing to do, just connecting to people in a truthful way, and keep your dream alive. Like, the more passionate you are about something, it affects people. There's a ripple effect. There's a ripple effect in anything we do. The butterfly effect. This is not a dream. This is the reality. There is a butterfly effect. Everything you do, everything you say has an impact on the world and has a ripple effect on the world. It might not seem like that at first, but it is reality. I do believe that. And so the more you keep your dream alive, your own personal dream alive, the more you're passionate about it. And it's not always easy. I'm not saying it's easy, because there are some days where you'll be crushed. You'll be like, why am I going in that direction? I was so depressed so many times when I was a teenager. I was painting or drawing, and it looked like crap. And I was like, why is it looking like this? After spending hours and hours on something that looks eventually not like the way you wanted it to look, it's depressing. It's really depressing for artists, and the rest of the world doesn't care. They don't see it. You're alone being depressed on that thing that you just messed up. So you have to pick yourself up and just like keep going, and like, there will be better days. Oh, by the way, learn traditional and 3D. Very important, especially
Yeah.
because it's like so many people don't realize that 3D is here to stay, whether we want to believe it or not. And so dream your reality and make it happen.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you, Christophe.
Well, thank you guys. That was a
Yeah, this
great.
is so fun.
Yeah, it
I'm
was.
so glad you agreed to be on the podcast. I'm like humbled to meet someone who's worked on so many amazing things and so talented.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That was our conversation with Christophe.
I love leaving a conversation feeling enriched. Like, I don't know, like I learned something. I learned a lot of things.
I know. I didn't even have words. It's like, what a master.
Mhm.
So many stories. I had to do the quick fire because I was like, I have to ask so many questions, but there's not enough time.
Yeah. Yeah. Great move on your part.
Thank you. I didn't even ask about at least 5 other things, and I'm sure there's more that I missed. I didn't ask about Flushed Away
Oh, no!
or The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I was like, I have to make cuts. It's truly awesome. Thanks so much for coming on our podcast, Christophe.
Yes.
One of the greats. One of the greats. Like, when he was like, I got to work on the remastering of Beauty and the Beast, I was like, cool, 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 cool.
Like, it was just a short sequence, and it's like, it's also a masterpiece, like
Yeah. Insane. And we're just 2 little guys
Yep. We
asking our
just
silly
happen to meet
questions.
superstars every day.
Yeah. What a gift. What a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was awesome. I guess we gotta go watch all the Mission Impossible movies.
I guess we have to go watch all of the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah.
What is it?
I don't know what a 7
Sextuple feature?
sounds sexy.
Yep.
Oh, man. Alright. I can do that. I could make that work. It'll really round out my New Year's resolution that I'm definitely behind on. I have not seen 100 new movies. I only have, like, 2 months left.
How many movies have you seen?
Probably, like, 30. That even seems too high. That seems high.
That seems low.
Yeah, I don't know. To watch 100 new movies in 2025, and I don't think I did.
Well,
Yeah, I tried.
I'll check your Letterboxd.
That's not even up to date.
Yeah, does it even have Downton Abbey, the grand finale?
Yeah, no way. Oh, man. Can't maintain my letterbox. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends to listen,
Tell your
comment.
uncle.
Yeah, tell your uncle, tell your funkle.
Tell your gunkle.
And our episodes are edited by Marv. Our cover art is by Les. And as of this recording, it's the last day of Lightbox. And if I saw you at Lightbox, it was so nice to meet you. And if you got your hands on one of our exclusive stickers, congrats. You can't buy them online, so
Do I get a sticker?
yeah, you get a sticker.
Yay!
But I hope everyone had a good Lightbox this year. And remember,
There's
not
one
right
way.
to get off the internet and make real connections.
There's not one right way to win an Emmy for an alien zombie mech TV show.
And there's not one right way to move from France to the US and work on the Goofy movie.
Yeah. And Dinosaur. Wow.
And many others.
Truly.
Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.